Greetings, dear listeners. Hope you're all doing well. We're back in studio just in time for me to share the following email with you. Warren, I have a problem I hope you can help me with. A few nights ago, I was walking along one of the pathways near the university, just as the sun was going down. The sun was behind me, and as I walked along, alone, I was amused to see my shadow stretching out ahead of me, like the shadow of a giant. And then I noticed the shadow of a second giant walking beside mine, even overlapping it in places. I turned and looked, expecting to see someone walking just behind me, maybe overtaking me. But when I looked, there was no one there. I laughed and just chalked it up to a trick of the light. But the next evening, as I walked to my car in a brightly lit parking lot, I was amazed to see a shadow walking parallel with mine, 10 to 15 feet away, to my right. I turned and looked, expecting to see another person walking to their car. But there was no one there. Nothing. In fact, the rest of the parking lot was practically deserted. I turned back, and now the shadow was right next to mine, standing like a person turned towards me. And then it put out its arm as if to push me. And I swear to God, something did push me. But there was no one there. Just a shadow. I wondered if maybe I just stumbled over something, but I shrugged it off and got in the car. And when I did, the passenger door opened and then closed, of its own volition. Again, there was no one there. Too weird. But again, I just tried to shrug it off. Must be the wind, I told myself. But there wasn't any wind. At least not that night. I then drove out of the parking lot and was on the ramp leading down to the Trans-Canada Highway when something grabbed the steering wheel. Something like an invisible hand. And I had to grab and hold it hard to keep from crashing into the guardrail. Somehow I made it down to the highway in one piece. The Trans-Canada is dominated by big transport trucks, and I had to fight with the invisible hand for the wheel, fight to stay in my lane and not sideswipe one of the huge transports. I got off at the first exit and checked the car, the steering wheel, the passenger seat, searching. I don't know what for. An invisible man? But there was nothing. I began to worry that perhaps the stress from the pandemic and the collapse of the economy had driven me over the edge. So I decided to just stay home nights. But then, last night, something else happened. I was sitting at my dining room table, working on my laptop. There was a light on in the adjoining room, and I could see my shadow and the shadow of the computer on the wall to my right. But that's not all I saw. Directly behind me was the shadow of a tall, thin man with a knife in his hand, blade raised as if to strike. I got up so quickly, I knocked over the chair, and the tall shadow disappeared. But I felt a stabbing pain in my shoulder. I went into the bathroom and took a look at the spot where I'd felt the pain. But there was nothing there. Not even a scratch. I figured I must be overtired, so I went to bed. As you can imagine, it took a while for me to fall asleep, but eventually I did. But then, something woke me, and I saw a person standing at the foot of my bed. I could see their silhouette in the glow cast by the night light in the hall. They were tall and thin, almost skeletal, and they were wearing a hat which looked like a broad-brimmed fedora. I think I yelled aloud and turned on my bedside light, and the person was gone. Nor did they reappear when I turned the light out. Can you tell me what is going on? Am I going crazy? Or am I being harassed by ghosts or those entities called shadow people? I did some research online, and shadow people are harbingers of doom. The ones who wear hats are supposed to be particularly evil. I am overwhelmed by a sense of dread. Do you have any suggestions of how I can deal with these shadow people or rid myself of their attentions? Submitted by Tim. This is bad, Tim. Shadow people are little understood, but are often signs of approaching trouble. The only advice I can give you is to be extra vigilant in everything you do and try to limit any potentially dangerous activities, such as driving at night or walking alone at night in a deserted area. Dear listeners, how would you advise Tim? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. My impression is that encounters with the shadow people are short-lived, so maybe they'll leave Tim alone in future. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first visit to my channel, my name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories about the night floaters, werewolves, and the black-eyed children. So please consider subscribing, and be sure to drop a like, share, and ring the bell so you won't miss any upcoming videos. You know, I'm so happy to be back in the studio. I feel like singing. Me and my shadow walking down the avenue. Or maybe I could try. I'm back in the studio again. Do 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 do. But don't worry, dear listeners. I'll resist the temptation to sing. After all, I don't want to turn this into a real horror video. Till midnight. Cheers.